The process control allows you to write code that launches other applications. While this functionality was possible in previous versions of .NET, it wasn't encapsulated in such an easy-to-use control that you can just drag from your toolbox onto your designer surface and configure using the Properties window or via code. So this simple example demonstrates two ways to launch a Windows application from within our application. The first method is by setting the properties of the process control, and the second method is to set the properties in code. First of all, you can find the process control in your toolbox by scrolling down and finding the components section. You'll see the process controls right here. So what we did to start off was drag and drop two process controls onto our designer surface. You can see the references here within the designer tray. The only difference between the two approaches that we've taken is that I pre-configured the notepad process. So if you take a look at the start info property, that there's a series of properties underneath of that. And you can see, first of all, that we set the file name to notepad.exe and the working directory to whatever the system folder is. So this is kind of a wildcard for the system folder for this particular user system slash the system32 folder. You'll notice that in the Internet Explorer process that we do not set any of the start info information by default, that it's all pretty much the default values that were originally there. So let's run our application to see how this works. I can click the Load Notepad button to start a process. So you can see here, it opened up the Notepad. And whenever the user closes Notepad, we get a little message box that says the Notepad has been closed by the user. We can load the Notepad once again, and this time kind of remote control the closing of Notepad. We get the same little message. Here we're going to load up Internet Explorer. It loads by default MSN. We're going to close that down. Again, we get a different message. Internet Explorer has been closed by the user. And then let's load it one more time. And we'll minimize it a little bit and pull our application up and select the Close Internet Explorer button, which closes the process down. So let's take a look at the source code that enabled us to create this and to work with these other processes. I'm going to go to the code view. Let's move this over and scroll down. First of all, you'll notice that we're working with the Load Notepad button _ click event. So when the user clicks the Load Notepad button, the first thing that we need to do is to set Enable Raising Events equal to true. This will allow us to capture an event called exited. And the exited event fires whether we call the kill method of our process or whether the user uses the little X button on Notepad or file exit on Notepad. Either way, it'll allow us to capture that event that the process is now shutting down. And in this particular case, all we're doing is really just displaying a message box. So similarly, when we work with Internet Explorer, we are going to enable the raising of events, which allows us to capture whenever the application is closing. It also allows us to start the process, just like we did with Notepad. But we want to set some information about what application it is that we want to actually launch. So in order to do that programmatically, we're going to use the process's startinfo.filename property, which we're setting to IE_path. Now we construct this IE_path variable in the first two lines of code of our click event. And so we're going to get the program file path by using system.environment.getFolderPath for program files. So notice environment.specialFolder enumeration, the program file enumeration value, and then concatenate that using the combine method of the system.io.path class to concatenate that to Internet Explorer /iExplorer.exe. So that should get us the path to Internet Explorer regardless of where it's been installed. So now let's run the application just to see how this works again. And I want to point out one additional piece of this, and that is whenever we, for example, load Internet Explorer and close it back down, and then try to select the Close Internet Explorer button, even though it's gone, essentially we will get a error message that says that you can't kill it because the process has already been exited. So just keep that in mind. We may need to add some error handling code around any of the code that deals with starting or killing processes. But the process control provides a very simple method of starting up and stopping other applications programmatically, as well as being able to monitor the application to see what data it outputs and when it's shut down and why.